skip a beat, count 1, 2, 3. And don't you stop the music, get into it, won't you dance with me? Find a place and lose it, you can do it, won't you dance with me?
Hello everyone, my name is Melvin Rivera and I would like to start this report by introducing my group members. Mr. Mark Kelvin Andres, Rael Tricia Pedronio, Myra Apan Peralta, and CJ Madikid Kidatan. Our topic today is attitude to language. The first one slide is attitude, a settled way of things or feelings about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. Attitude are evaluation people makes about objects, ideas, events, or other people. A attitude can be positive or negative. To my knowledge, the attitude I will always use in any order, especially in fellowships. The second slide, how does attitude affect communication? An attitude and perception can affect business communication in both positive and negative ways. For example, in positive, if you are selling a product with your clients, all you have to do is be kind to the person you talking to. In that way, you can convince him. Through this, you will be able to facilitate your transaction better with him. Sa negative naman po is, if you are selling a product and your behavior is not capable, you can lose your clients. Also the opportunity to sell your product. Lalong-lalo na po kung ikaw ay businesswoman or whatever.
Impact of established attitude. If you have a firm attitude about a particular business issue, you're likely to communicate about with a black and white perspective. So it means that black and white perspective is the tendency to think extreme thoughts, either a negative or a positive ways. The example of negative thought about it is, our business will be closed as to our stockholders already quit. However, the positive thought about it is, hold on, we can find another stockholders. Second bullet is, in this sense, your ingrained way of thinking impacts your ability to accurately and comprehend anything other than what you already believe. In this sense, your own way of thinking or decision making impacts your ability to accurately comprehend any situations in your belief. In other words, you always believe on your own way on coping up with a negative or positive situations. For example, you and your team are having some arguments about presentation. So for you to finally end the argument, you always think either join the argument and have some words, or talk to them to stop the argument in a way of being a leader. Keep an open mind to strengthen the internal environment and open doors for growth. You're always required to make a better way of thinking as to how you will be able to strengthen internal environment and open a door for growth. In this manner, you always do the positive way of thinking for you to be able to finally establish a positive impact on your attitude.
So, inability to accurately judge. Anytime you have a preconceived notion or opinion, it affects your ability to communicate on that topic. Take care not to be too quick to judge. Hear out reasonable proposals. Take a few moments to ponder them and then work together with coworker to weigh the pros and cons before making a final decision. So, in a business or in any company, one becomes advanced in thinking. So dito, nagiging advanced mag-isip ang isang tao about sa result ng isang task, which may affect their ability to pay attention to it. So for example, in office, if your marketing manager comes to you with a business proposal for a new ad campaigns, but you have already decided that ad campaigns don't work, your attitude impact accurate and effective communication between you and your manager. So in this case, it may affect your relationship between you and your manager, and it may also cause misunderstanding. So to avoid that, we must take care not to be too quick to judge. Hear out reasonable proposal first and take a few moments to ponder them before make a final decision. So next is incomplete communication. Attitude can impact people's ability to fully and accurately communicate with one another. Incomplete delivery of information can have an all-around negative bearing ability to fully perform job, breathing low productivity, mistrust, and poor interpersonal relationship. So, communication is the foundation of any productive business and it drives the business to success. So, communication should always be there. So, sa isang business, napakahalaga ng komunikasyon kasi this is the way to understand one another. So, for example, in a team in office, if a team member and a manager can share information and interact with one another, work likely won't get done. It can lead to issues including misunderstanding, poor moral, and even legal complaints. So pag walang komunikasyon ng isang business, naapektuhan nito ang relasyon ng bawat isa at pati na rin yung work, yung trabaho. So, in work or in any situation, we must try to communicate to other and we must try to have a good attitude enable for us to communicate or interact to other in a better way. So that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Inability to see problem is a person who's not capable to see a problem in a situation or every situation. For example, when the teacher reminds us that we will be having an exam tomorrow, but I have this kind of attitude which is overly confident that I'm going to finish or pass the exam even I didn't browse or review my handout before taking the exam. But because of my attitude, I didn't pass the exam and I got low score. And that is the impact of having this kind of attitude. Overly optimistic attitude can lead to ineffective communication. An optimistic person has a belief that he can do his work at the end of submission, just like the example. If the project manager whose attitude is that last-minute work effort are no big deal, he may not respond to reminders from staffers that elements of project are unfinished on that deadline are in danger of not being met. Because of attitude, the communication simply doesn't register with him. The problem there is the attitude of the project manager is satisfied at last minute doing his work or his project. He never think about the possibilities that will happen, the possibilities that the business will be in danger because the project that he submitted, there is something wrong that he never checked out. example is when you have a group activity and your groupmate whose attitude is that, "Oh, tapos na pala. Okay na yan. Pasado na kay ma'am yan. Ang importante, meron tayong maipasa." Those attitude is not a good example to have a good communication with your groupmate. Of attitude should not be done and make us a habit because it will delay tasks. Especially student like us, there are a lot of activities that we need to finish. And the best thing we can do is we should do the activity as early as we can. So we could be able to browse, analyze, and read what are the corrections or what are the missing in the activity that we did. Rather than doing your activity at last minute. We should know how to use and value our time. As Cecilia Ahern said, time is gold. And attitude is also important to have a good communication. And that's all about inability to see problems.
I will be reporting about conflict, which is the last topic of our group. And conflict was listed since it's one of the results on how attitude affects communication. It's a negative result. So from my screen, it says here, conflict is an expressive struggle between interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, and interference. So basically, it means that conflict is a serious disagreement in between parties or an argument. And on the second bullet, it says, a conflict results in heated arguments, physical abuses, and definitely loss of peace and harmony. So if you're going to ask me, why would it result to heated arguments, physical abuses, and loss of peace and harmony? The answer is just because of our negative attitude. But if you handle difficult situations by communicating with a positive attitude, your employees and managerial team are likely to follow your lead. In this second sentence, it's saying that if we are dealing a difficult situation in a positive way, then it will always have a good outcome. And we can actually cite a lot of examples of negative and positive attitude. And I can show you some of the examples that I was able to research on. So number one here is self-defeating talks. Self-defeating talks is actually the kind of attitude in which you keep on saying to yourself that you can't do it, or I am not the right person to do it, or I don't think I can do that. This kind of attitude is actually irritating. So of course, it will always lead to conflict, especially if the person who's trying to ask help from you is the kind of person who is irritated easily. So to avoid that kind of attitude, we should have confidence in ourselves. We should believe that things can be processed and that we can always ask help from others if we think we really cannot work on it. Another one is the negative assumptions. Negative assumptions is a kind of attitude in which one of the members would always think that someone from the member is always maybe a liar or unreliable or anything. It's a negative thinking, actually. So it will always result to conflict as well. So to avoid that, we should have trust. Remove the trust issues. At least observe before you assume negatively or ask probably, just to avoid this kind of attitude. Another example we have here is negative comparison with others. So this kind of attitude is actually very negative because it is a drop in mood and it damages our personality, which will result to negative feelings. And isn't it that if we have a negative feeling, it will affect how we communicate with others. So to avoid this, we should know our self-worth and start encouraging yourself that um, you are the best. Instead of comparing, just think of yourself as a good one. And the last one here is the desire to blame. So a person who keeps blaming someone who doesn't take responsibility of his or her own actions will always result to conflict. An example is if you will say, siya kasi kaya na natalo tayo sa grupo, something like that. Of course, it will result to conflict. So to avoid that, we should learn how to accept your own mistakes, accept your own failures, deal it with a positive way. So those are other examples that I can give you, and I think that's it. But just to summarize the topic of our group, it is actually just saying that negative attitude affects communication in a negative way, and positive attitude affects communication in a positive way. That's it, and thank you.